Hi guys, it's Andy Lehman from freedomskillsacademy.com. I'm here again with another Life Bible extract, another sort of motivational, inspirational talk. I hope you enjoy them. I hope you find it useful. But so today I'm going to talk about the need to change bad habits to change your environment. So this is not necessarily just about bad habits. It's about making major changes to your life, both positive or replacing the negative ones. So if you have some bad habits you need to change, it's very hard to change those habits when you are in the place where you've basically been doing all those bad habits. So for example, I remember a true story of an old friend of mine who he was addicted to drugs, and so when he came away from prison, he'd been in prison for quite a while, and when he came back from prison, he'd been offered a job out of town and he wanted to take that. But because of the probation situation, they told him he had to stay in town. But because he was stayed in town, he wasn't away from the people that he knew. Once they realised he was out of prison, they came to talk to him, and then suddenly it all went downhill. He ended up going back into prison because he got mixed up with drugs again. And it's because he was stuck in the same place where the bad had happened. He needed to change his bad habits. He needed to change his life. He needed to change his situation. He wasn't able to escape. He was taught, he was kept here, unfortunately, surrounded by the people and the familiarity of the things that he had while he was on the drugs. And so he ended up going back down that slippery slope and ended up back in prison. Now, hopefully you're not having such a big battle. You haven't got to do with that. You could be trying to stop smoking. Now, another example would be if you are trying to stop smoking and you work in a bar. It's different now here in the UK. Things have changed. So you don't smoke. You can't smoke in a workplace. But several years ago, you used to be able to smoke in bars and restaurants. So if you worked in a bar and you worked behind the bar, or you worked as, say, a server in a restaurant where people were smoking regularly, and you were trying to give up smoking, you were going to work and spending your time surrounded by all this passive smoke. You were in the environment where there was lots of smoke going on. In the old days when you used to work in a bar, not only was, people were smoking all around you, there was a fag machine at the end of the bar, there was too much exposure to that one thing that you were trying to get away from. Now, it's not possible always to swap your job, but if you were able to swap your job and move to, let's say you were able to work on a health retreat, so you'd be able to go into a health retreat, and you swap from working behind a smoky bar to working in a place where you were serving juices to people, there was no smoking allowed, and you were like, you didn't have a car, you didn't have a van, you were like a 20-minute walk to the nearest town where the nearest shop is, so you couldn't buy cigarettes. Taking yourself out of that environment will give you a better chance of being able to break that bad habit, because you can't actually go back into the bad habit. It's very easy to be distracted and be weak when you are surrounded by everything that is going on. I like to read a lot, and I remember reading in a book, this is slightly different, but it was to do with a woman who was suffering from grief. The book was about nerves breakdowns and anxiety. And this was written by a nurse, and she was talking about all the different people who were struggling with certain mental health and nerves and anxiety issues. And one woman was dealing with the death of her husband. She was really struggling with the death. And she still lived at home where they both lived happy. And in the room was his favourite chair. Now, his favourite chair sat. Every time she walked into the room and she saw that chair, she felt sad. It really got her down and she was really struggling. So the nurse suggested that she would remove the chair, even decorate the room, remove the chair out and make a complete change. Now, this woman was struggling with the idea because she thought to suddenly get rid of all the things that reminded her of her husband was kind of some form of, I suppose, cheating. It was kind of wrong because, you've been with someone for all these years, you cared about them, you loved them. It's not like you fell out of love. And to be told that you were to remove everything that reminded you of this really nice, this person that you loved, seemed kind of wrong and counter intuitive to her. But eventually she went with that, and she did remove the chair, and she tidied up the house, changed the house, decorated it all up. And she began to actually embrace life again. She began to live more, and she began to feel a lot better. And the reason was because you took away the stimulation that kept bringing you back down, the things that was sort of distracting you from or stopping you from moving forward and changing bad habits. She didn't love her husband any less, and it wasn't questionable. No one was saying that she did or she didn't, because basically why would you keep something that was making your life more harder and miserable now? Just in this false belief or this false idea that people may look at you and say, you don't really care. She knew she cared. She really did care, but she had to change the environment around her so that she could break the habit of sadness, the depression that she was feeling, and the sudden loneliness, to be able to move forward with her life. And again, this is something with positive action. So, for example, we're talking about changing bad habits, talking about smoking and drugs. We talked about grief. If someone dies and you're struggling, if you can't decorate the house and move stuff out, move to another house. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It doesn't mean that you don't care about that person. But going back to major changes that you could be doing, like positive, you could be learning something new. So let's say that you wanted to learn something to do with computing, whether it be internet marketing, whether it be email marketing, whether it be just computer sciences, basically learning coding, how to build websites. You can do that from home now, thanks to the internet and all this online education, such as the things that we teach at freedomskillsacademy.com. You can do this from the comfort of your own home. You can do it from your sofa, you can do it from your bed, you can do it from the table in the kitchen. Wonderful situation we're living in now. We are living in the best time of human history to be able to learn and change your situation at home. But there is always a problem when you're working from home. If you're trying to learn from home while you've got a partner or you've got family with you, very easy for them to walk in, start talking to you. 5 minutes of introducing themselves, sort of coming in and talking about something could soon become half an hour to an hour. You probably spent ages talking about something, and then by the time you get turned around to look at your laptop again, it's 10 o'clock at night, you need to go to bed or whatever time you go. So it's very easy to be distracted by people. Also, when you're working from home, if you've got lots of friends, they know where to come, they'll probably call on you. If you're working from home and you haven't got friends and family here, you're not far from the kitchen, so you may go make yourself a cup of coffee. Now, if you really want to you want to change your circumstances and study something new, but you're finding it hard, you'll probably find that you'll procrastinate a lot. This is it's sort of natural for humans to do. In fact, you'll find that people who hate washing pots and doing certain household chores will probably end up doing that as opposed to doing the training that they want to learn. They choose to do this new course because they want these new skills, but they're finding it hard. It's all new and stressful. And so they end up doing the things that are easy, even though they don't really like doing them. And a lot of it is just to procrastinate. So if you're working from home, you can find yourself doing other things as well as being distracted by friends and family. You can go and make yourself a cup of coffee, and then sort of cup of coffee and a couple of biscuits, and you go back to your laptop and you decide to sit down on the sofa for 5 minutes with your coffee, put your telly on, or you see something going on outside the window and you're going to have a look out the window. Before you know it, half an hour to an hour has passed, you're still there with your cup of coffee, your biscuits, watching TV or looking out the window. So what is the alternative? And the alternative is to try and change your environment. Take away the comforts of the home that you're in, take away the familiarity and the things, your toys basically. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have somewhere where you can get a drink, but if you could hire a small sort of office for an hour an evening, or if you go to the library, it can be distracting because you have people coming in. But if you take yourself out of your natural home environment, then you are able probably to learn more because you've got nothing around you that is going to distract you. You can be laser focused because you'll be sitting looking at your laptop. You haven't got your CD player over there. I mean, yes, we've got the things on the laptop, social media, YouTube, and we do have messaging connections to other people, networks to other people. So it can get a bit distracting, sort of in-house, in hand with the actual tablet, mobile phone, laptop, whatever you're using. You can easily be distracted that way. But by taking yourself out of your normal familiarity, your normal environment, your house, then you are removing yourself from further distractions. If you have a partner or you've got children, then you're able to leave them at home. They're not being distracted. They're not having their normal day routine sort of change. They can carry on doing what they're doing, watching the TV, playing whatever it is that they want to get on with. You can leave the house, go elsewhere and sit down and learn. Now, you might be thinking, very easy to say, you can't really find many places to hire. And if you want to hire a room for an hour, it can be costly. But then, like that old saying goes, that if by trying to save the pennies on something now could actually be a lot more costly in the long run. So if you don't go to the dentist, you put that off because you're having to pay £60, $60 for a dentist appointment. You can't afford it, so you put it off. Further down the line, it's probably going to cost you hundreds of pounds, thousands of pounds, thousands of dollars to have your teeth replaced, or you're going to struggle eating food because all your teeth are falling out. So sometimes the short-term expense actually is more beneficial than the long-term losses. So you can lose £100 trying to find a place to rent so you can do your study. Might seem expensive, but in the long run you might be able to study and learn your skills quicker, which means then if you can learn your skills quicker, then you can actually start earning money, or you can get a new job, whatever it is. If you change your circumstances quicker, then you actually earn more money to pay back what you've already lost. Whereas if you didn't, you did it from home, where you're distracted by family, you're distracted by friends, you're distracted by the TV, the radio, you're distracted by the kitchen, distracted by people outside your house, whatever it is. If you work from home and you're constantly getting distracted, then in the long run, it's probably going to cost you thousands of pounds in lost earnings or lost revenue because you've not learnt the skills quick enough. So that is an alternate sort of idea to working from home, is to try and find somewhere where you can work where you are away from distractions. Like I said, there's the library. The library does have public people coming in every now and again, so it can be. You can probably find a quiet corner, a quiet room. You could try and hire a place, or if you know somebody who actually has an office or a factory or a large shed or something, or a summer house where people aren't going to be, see if you can borrow those. Set yourself up in there. So make sure it's not too comfortable, because again, as much as we love comfort, everybody loves to be able to relax and chill in a big, warm, comfy chair or bed. Too much comfort is distracting, because so can be the opposite. If you're freezing, if it's cold and you're miserable, you can't focus. But if you're too warm, if it's too comfy, you won't feel like working. So basically, if you want to change bad habits, if you want to be able to learn to do things quickly, then, like I say, consider changing your environment. Many moons ago, I used to smoke a little bit of weed myself. So there you go. That's that's an admission from me. I did smoke a bit of weed now and again. And when I needed to stop, I stopped going out to my mate's house for, I think it was 6 months or basically a year possibly, because everybody would gather up, into this house to have a takeaway, watch a few films and smoke a few joints. I knew that if I was to go and do that every week while trying not to smoke, it was going to be a nightmare. So I took myself out of that situation, and I made a complete clean break of it, because if I need to make any big changes and I need to reinforce the new habits, because obviously it's often easier to change habits. It's often easier to replace a bad habit with a new habit. Instead of trying to break a bad habit, create a new habit. That's another thing. And that's what part of changing the environment is all about. So if you're able to change your habit for a positive one, so whereas the bad habit was going to my friend's house in the midweek with all the others and smoking weed, I now decided to change that habit for a new one, which was basically staying at home and doing something else. So that was I was changing the habit for something else, or probably going out for a run, doing some exercising. So changing a bad habit can be helped by basically focusing on a new habit, and the new positive habit is often helped by changing the environment, because it's going to be so much easier. In the old days back here in the UK, people used to work in bars. Bars used to be able to smoke in a bar, in a restaurant. Now you can't. The law has changed, so it's not so bad. But in the old days, if you worked behind the bar and you were smoking and you wanted to stop smoking, what was you going to do? How are you going to escape if out of 4 or 5 nights of the week you work in this smoky environment? At the end of the bar was a fag machine. How was you going to escape that? Now, it's not particularly easy to being able to change your job, but if you could find a job where basically you were going to be at a place where smoking wasn't allowed, there wasn't a fag machine, and you were sort of too far to walk to the nearest shop, then you've got a greater chance of actually stopping smoking, because you're not in the environment. There's nothing there to constantly remind you. And if you kept busy doing something, your mind's not going to be on it. Whereas if you're working in a smoky bar, you're breathing it in all the time. I suppose you could argue that by breathing it in, you didn't have to buy any cigarettes. It was like a slow come down, but but it was still a very hard position to be in, because if you're going to change your habits, you're going to change your life, then sometimes it is best to do it from the place where you don't have the issue. Einstein said something similar about trying to figure out the answer to a problem cannot be found by using the same mindset that is created the problem. So basically, what he's trying to say in that is, if you've got a problem, if you've created a problem, if your thinking is creating a problem, if you're sort of down and depressed and that's created a problem, using that same down, depressed mindset is not going to find the solution. You need to have a different mindset. You need to basically come away from that mindset. You need to come away from that kind of thinking. You need to take a break and then return with a fresh set of eyes or a fresh sort of mind. So to change a bad habit or to learn new skills, if you need to, then you probably need to consider changing the environment. And again, like I said, I've always said this before, I can give you the ideas and I can give you the advice. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that, I'm not going to be one of those people who just say, oh yeah, it's easy, do this, do that, and everybody else does it. There's 24 hours in a day, we've all got the same amount of time. Again, that's not true. Everybody is different. Lots of people are biologically different. Some people have the energy to be able to do 3 hours of sleep and then get up and go and do lots. Margaret Thatcher apparently ran the country when she was Prime Minister of Great Britain. Apparently she used to get 3 hours sleep and go off and run the country. I, on the other hand, if I get 3 hours of sleep, I can't run a bath. I need a lot more. My good lady, for example, has ME and fibromyalgia, so she suffers a lot. So it's very easy to say that everybody has 24 hours, everybody's the same, we all have the same potential, and in many ways we biologically are the same. And yes, we do have 24 hours of a day, but we don't all have the same tolerance and ability to do things. So I'm not going to say that it's easy. If you do want to sort of change a job, I'm not going to say you're going to be able to do it tomorrow. I try and give you a few ideas, some examples. Like I say, if you want to learn new skills and you're struggling from home, change your environment. If you are wanting to change some bad habits, replace them with positive ones. And if that means you have to change your environment, so be it. If changing your job helps, then that is brilliant. But I do appreciate that you might not be able to do that right off. But give it some consideration, give it some thought. You might find something else that you could change to that allows you to change your bad habits before you move on to something else. Because remember, every job that you do for somebody else should be considered as a stepping stone. It is a stepping stone. It's not something forever, unless you choose it to be forever, or if you get yourself stuck into a situation where you can't get out, which is a nightmare. But if you can look at a job as a stepping stone while you are trying to work your way up to something better and bigger, then that's brilliant. So if you're wanting to change certain bad habits and you think changing your job will help, have a look around, see if there's something that you can do while you change those habits. Doesn't have to be forever. So if you're working in an environment which is noisy and dirty and dusty and you're concerned about your health and you need to get out, but you can't, you feel like you need the same amount of money, or you feel that you don't want to swap a job for another crap job, have a look and see if you can find something which will just help you change those bad habits for the short term. It doesn't have to be long. Could be a year, could be 2 years, could even be just a few months. But have a look around. If you can change your environment for certain things, then do so, because it will help in the long run. Like I said with the example from the book, where the woman who was grieving, she'd lost her husband, she was clinging on to memories of her husband. She was clinging on to things that was part of him, because she didn't want to, it felt wrong, just suddenly cleaning everything out. It was like it was disrespectful. She felt like it was some sort of cheating on him in some ways, like, oh, that's it, he's gone, off you go, and completely void of emotion. It wasn't like that, but the reminders around her were crippling her. They were keeping her down by keeping her sad, lonely, emotional and depressed, and she needed to change that. So she changed the environment. She removed the memories, probably put them in a different room that she could go into every now and then, and probably kept a photo out. Obviously, you're going to keep a photo out somewhere, but she decorated the room, decorated the house possibly, took out the furniture that was predominantly reminding her of him, and it helped her to heal. Okay, so changing the environment is always a good option for changing bad habits, changing negative emotions, to helping to learn if you can do it. it's something to definitely consider. Okay, so I'm going to bring this short video to a close. I've spoken enough. So yeah, again, this was a Life Bible extract. There is a chapter in there about this, and if you want yourself a free physical copy of the Life Bible, you can get that from our website. It's completely free. Just pay postage and packaging, and you get that from, you can see the link below or here. It's the freedomskillsacademy.com/the life-bible, something like that. So you can see the link below, and go get yourself a copy, and I shall speak to you again in another video. I hope you enjoyed this, and speak to you soon. Cheers, goodbye.